All right, we are recording.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, share with us what it means to have Vice President and Democratic nominee Kamala Harris here in technically Lansing Township, but Lansing, to speak to workers at the UAW.
Well, it's extremely important. We know that this election is going to be decided by a few states, and we know that Michigan is one of those few. We're ground zero right here. And when you look at what happened just a week or two ago when J.D. Vance comes in and says $500 million for American workers for our auto plant are now at risk, this is the place to be. The Trump-Vance ticket has to explain why would they take $500 million away from American workers, and yet you've got Vice President Harris, who is talking about supporting American workers and supporting our manufacturing industry and being a president for everyone. So for her to come here at ground zero where it was said, where it would affect our workers and where it would affect our economy, I appreciate her being here. I hope the other side comes and tells us why they're looking to take that away. As Vice President, it's great for her to be here just to show that the administration cares about mid-Michigan, about Lansing, about our area. So I think as a Vice President and as the presidential candidate, this shows the importance of Lansing. It shows the importance of Michigan. It shows that they find that the Midwest is important. This isn't just New York and California. It's not the coasts. This is the Midwest being important, and Lansing being the capital city of Michigan shows our importance in Lansing.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you do a little election analysis here.
Sure.
One of the critiques of the Clinton campaign in 2016 was that she didn't visit Michigan. Do you think Vice President Harris has been to enough of Michigan often enough to be competitive? I mean, you look at the Vance-Trump ticket, and they've essentially taken up residence in the state.
Right. Yeah, I think that Vice President Harris and her direct surrogates, you talk about the Vice President being in Michigan numerous times, you talk about Tim Walz, a vice presidential candidate, being in Michigan numerous times. We saw Gwen Walz, we saw Doug Emhoff. We've had all kinds of different surrogates here. So yeah, I think that they are taking it very seriously. They understand the importance of the blue wall. They understand the importance of Michigan. I get to compete with some mayors in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. We joke around about how many times Kamala Harris or Tim Walz or any of their surrogates are here in Michigan versus Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. We've added in Arizona. We've added in North Carolina. Yeah, they're here a lot, and they should be. And she's here a lot, and she should be. So I appreciate it. Between Lansing and Detroit, Grand Rapids, Flint, she's been to a lot of the major areas, and they've invited people from all over the state to be here and to see her and let her hear her message, let us hear her message. I think it's fantastic, and I think it shows the importance of Michigan, that we will not be taken for granted. We vote based on the candidate, and we want to hear from that candidate, and she's here, and she is telling us why she is going to be the best president of the United States.
Okay. On that same note, let's talk a little bit down ballot.
Yeah.
We've got Curtis Hertel and Tom Barrett, the
Yep.
7th Congressional District. Polls are very, very tight.
Yep.
What's your sense as you're going door to door and on these campaign events and
Sure.
talking to people? What are you hearing in terms of what the outcome may be?
Yeah, I think Curtis is going to win. I think it's going to be very close. There's no one who thinks this is going to be a 10-point race in either direction. It's always been very close here in our congressional district, and what was the 8th and now is the 7th. But I actually have been out knocking doors for the campaign, and people see Curtis as, they know he got a lot done for them when he was in the state Senate. They know that he's got the experience we need, but they also think he's just the everyday guy who is going to be our next congressman. I think people have big concerns when it comes to Tom Barrett and some of the extreme conservative policies he supported and pushed for in the state Senate, including his abortion stances, being no abortion at all for anyone, anytime. I think that's a real concern for folks, that if Tom Barrett were to get into Congress, he would be one of those folks that depose the Republican speaker, and one of those folks that is going to be a right-wing person that is not going to really help our district. So it's going to be close, and that's always this congressional district. But I think Curtis does what Alyssa Slotkin did in her first race when she ran in this district, which is talk to all the people all the time and win in the end, but it'll be close.
On that note, Hakeem Jeffries has been here in the district campaigning for Curtis.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Speaker Johnson is going to be here in Lansing campaigning for Tom Barrett.
Yeah.
Does that indicate, with that level of national surrogacy
Yes.
coming in, is that an indication that the 7th congressional seat here in Michigan is really one of the key seats for control of the U.S. House?
Absolutely. Control of Congress goes through the 7th congressional district. Every seat is tremendously important. There are certainly, a handful, 8, 10 seats. There's a few in New York. There's one in Oregon, but we've got 2 to 3 of them here in Michigan. And there's a reason, all these folks are coming here and raising money and talking to voters. When you see Hakeem Jeffries, who will be the next Speaker of the House here, we know that this is an important seat. Again, when you see the current Speaker of the House here for Tom Barrett, we know that that they need to try and get their people out, and the Dems need to try and get their people out. So yes, the control of the next Congress is going to run through Lansing, it's going to run through Shiawassee, and it's going to run through Livingston, and it's going to run through Ingham, Eaton, and Clinton counties, part of Oakland. And it's important, and I'm glad to see that their folks are coming here, but the reality is the candidates are going to speak to how they're going to serve. And I think Curtis Hertel is the candidate for everybody. He's got Republicans that are supporting him. He's got former members of Congress and the legislature and others who know that he'll be the best candidate for everyone. So I think that wins out at the end.
Okay. Anything I didn't ask you that you think is really important as we're looking at the Vice President's visit, as we're looking at, the last 19 days, I think it is, before the election. How important is this election? And, we're already seeing that absentee ballots.
Yep.
There's fewer requested, fewer being returned.
Well, we're at about 50% return. I was just with the clerk minutes ago.
Okay, here in Lansing.
Yes, right. That's right. Here in Lansing. The only thing you didn't ask is the U.S. Senate. When you talk about Michigan and our importance, I would argue the presidential race is going through Michigan. You got to win Michigan to be the next president. The Congress, the U.S. House of Representatives, is going to run through Michigan with the 7th district, as well as over in Grand Rapids, even into Macomb County. That's going to run through Michigan, and the U.S. Senate. There is no way the Democrats hold the U.S. Senate, or it becomes a tie without Alyssa Slotkin being our next U.S. senator. So all 3 branches, or not all 3 branches, all 3 parts of both branches, the presidency as well as both houses of Congress, are dependent on this congressional district and this state. And there's a lot of pressure on our voters, but it means that our voters are paying attention and they're educating themselves, and they're going to go to the ballot. And I do think that the Democrats come out on top because they want to be for all people. When you look in your Republicans and you look at the top of the ticket, you've got a presidential candidate that's talking about retribution, that's tearing down the city of Detroit, that's tearing down our state in order to try and win votes. And I don't think that's going to work with folks that aren't already for him. That's not going to win over new votes, as opposed to a presidential candidate in Kamala Harris, who's going to be a president for everybody. And you look at the Congress that she needs to get things done, and you have Curtis Hertel and Alyssa Slotkin. We have the right candidates here, and I think that's going to make the difference.
I guess one question that pops up for me is, January 6th, you and I talked shortly after that, because we had an event coming up at the state capitol.
Yeah.
There were great concerns about potential issues at the capitol and potential violence.
Yes.
Trump has said that January 6th was a love fest.
Right.
What is your response to that?
January 6th was a nightmare for this country. People, just look at the scenes. Look at the scenes that were on WLNS. Look at the scenes that you can't make this up. You can't have revisionist history and say that it wasn't one of the worst days in our nation's history when it comes to democracy. And I am extremely concerned about what will happen this year. If the election is tight in Michigan, I am extremely concerned about what will happen at our capital. We are the capital city, and people are going to come here, and we're preparing for that because 4 years ago, as you know, we had to call out the National Guard because we were told there were going to be riots, and the Capitol Commission had to fence the Capitol. When you talk about electors coming into town and casting their vote, I do think Kamala Harris is going to win. I do think Kamala Harris is going to win, and I think it's going to be close. And I am concerned about what happens next when you have a presidential candidate that refuses to say he's going to accept the results if it's not him. That, to me, is it's very concerning. So something I'm going to keep my eye on and that we are preparing for.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
All right.
All right.